This is Ifton Meadows. Over 50 years ago, there was a coal mine just up the road, St Martin's, before it was closed in November of 1968. Back then, it was known as Ifton Colliery. At its peak, roughly 1,300 men toiled down there, providing the country with 1,750 tonnes of coal per day. It was a development initially sunk in 1913 by the old Bryn Canal shaft that was run by W.S. Craig & Son. As the years went by, it became more extensive and productive. Then, in 1947, it was nationalised. The pit was very profitable and had a deep relationship with the village of St Martin's and other nearby settlements. According to the former miner, Terry Ellis, pretty much everyone knew somebody in their family who worked down in the mine.
The relationship was that the colliery and the miners supported everything in the village. They had their own band, silver band, they had their own football teams, they built the institute, and they also built Chirk Hospital. So the relationship was that they were very, very good to the community.
For some, it was more than just a job, but a way of life and a source of income for those who worked down there. It also changed the village in a number of ways. When the mine came around, the area changed from an agricultural to an industrial community. You can also see with your own eyes how the colliery has changed St Martin's. The miners contributed to the construction of Chirk Hospital, the new Ifton houses, and the Miners' Institute by sacrificing bits of their wage. The Miners' Institute was where they would all go for a drink after a hard day's work. Unfortunately, the coal mine would inevitably be decommissioned in 1968. It was closed for several reasons, but the chief one being spontaneous underground fires that started to break out. It's also the factor of the coal reserves becoming scarcer and more difficult to reach. This danger to the miners and the economic strain from continuing their endeavour increased until there was a breaking point, and the coal mine was shut down. Upon its closure, the remaining 134,000 tonnes of coal still down there were stockpiled on the surface to be sold. Within 2 months, this was gone, and so was the colliery's purpose. The closure was controversial, to say the least. With a flick of a pen, 1,300 people lost their livelihoods, along with decades of continuity.
Well, it did have an effect in a way, but that was all softened by the building of local factories. There was 1,200 men made redundant at Ifton Colliery at the time, but a lot of them found work at the factories that were built, Cronosman, Cadbury's, and some even went to other collieries such as Bircham and Gressford.
Despite the frightening dangers they faced down there, the hardships allowed for friendships to flourish and built a firm sense of camaraderie amongst the workers. So when the mine closed, there was a storm of conflicting emotions.
It was very, very dangerous. The camaraderie was very, very good down there. Men had to be friendly with one another because of the dangers. They all looked after one another. It was dusty, it was noisy, and it was really, really dangerous.
After the closure, the men had to find work elsewhere. A lot of ex-workers found employment at the nearby factories like Cadbury's, Cronospan, and other collieries like Bryn Canal. Now most of the ex-miners are either retired or no longer with us. A few still keep in contact with each other and have nostalgic fond memories of their former workplace. One such retired mining engineer, known as Terry Ellis, has very generously offered to share his experiences of working down the pit.
Well, I was an engineer. I worked down the colliery for 20 years. Started as a lad of 15 and I finished when I was 35, being made redundant. I was an engineer responsible for all the machinery down the colliery.
For decades after the closure, the land was nothing but an overgrown field taken back by Mother Nature. In 1978, it was turned into a green space. The mine entrances and spoils were covered up for safety reasons. In that time, it was simply a foggy memory in the corner of everyone's eye, basking in tranquil silence as the world soldiered on. But then, in 2005, the land was transformed into a nature reserve by the Shropshire Council to protect the wildlife and memory of the site. It has beautiful scenery and interesting landmarks to take a stroll through. Nowadays, it acts as a public footpath for dog walkers. There you can find plaques that tells you of its history. In 2018, a locally funded campaign resulted in a commemorative statue being erected in the centre of the village. The 7-foot 6-inch bronze statue was to mark the 50th anniversary of the mine's closure and to honour the legacy of all those who put their lives on the line to fuel the nation.
Well, the intention of the statue was to commemorate all the people that worked down the colliery, and particularly the ones that lost their lives down there. It was important that the village had some sort of commemoration, and we thought that that was the ideal thing to do, was to build a statue, which cost us quite a lot of money, but I think that the reviews we've had of what the effect it's had in the village has been very, very good.
The ceremony of its installation was attended by 400 people. The statue that depicts a typical miner in the 1960s, which has since been dubbed Mr. Mott's, who the villagers had to raise £50,000 for it to be casted. The legacy of St. Martin's rich history now stands with pride for all to see, vowing to never be forgotten.